Hello and welcome to the Fast Track Travel Clinic with me, Simon Calder. There's no doubt about the greatest travel enhancement of this millennium, well, after the creation of Fast Track that is, and that's the rise of the internet, allowing millions of travellers to go direct to suppliers of hotel rooms, rental cars and airlines. Marvellous! Except when the World Wide Web gets tangled, as happened to David Kelly, who lives in the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur, when he's not globetrotting.
I choose Singapore Airlines when I can, but in May, when I tried to book the all-business class flight from Singapore to New York, the airline took the $7,500 fare from my credit card, and then I learned the booking had been cancelled.
David, the carrier revamped its website last month and tells me some of our customers have been encountering teething troubles with the new website. As a result of these problems, the airline is getting more calls than normal at its call centres, which is causing further issues. In short, Singapore Airlines is very sorry and is trying to fix the problem as quickly as possible, not least because it's losing high-value customers such as you to rival carriers. Leon Gross from the US state of Georgia booked flights from Rome to Miami through an online agency based in Spain. He tells Fast Track,
"The tickets printed out a wrong date of travel. I noticed this within minutes and began trying to contact the agent. 7 emails, 2 letters and 2 phone calls later, I'm $1,600 out of pocket, and my next step is an expensive lawsuit. Any other suggestions?"
Leon, unless you had the foresight to print out a copy of the online booking summary demonstrating that you had entered the right dates, my recommendation is to let the matter rest before it costs you even more. I'd like to be positive, but you tell me you've already asked your card issuer for compensation without success. Put it down to experience. Next time, use an agency in your home country and remember that all-important printout. Next, Sarah Holloway of the lovely Caribbean island of Montserrat tells Fast Track she's reached the end of her tether. She was booked on Win Air from her home island to the Caribbean Air hub of Antigua with an onward connection to London. When Win Air axed the link from Montserrat to Antigua, the agency she booked through cancelled her entire trip. It cost Sarah an extra $500 to find an alternative route. And on top of that,
5 months later, I still haven't received a refund despite frequent requests. What can I do to pursue my claim and get at least the fare back and ideally recover my additional costs?
Sarah, according to the terms of the agency you used, if an airline cancels a flight, then the agency can choose either to rebook you on a different carrier or refund the fare. Because it's a UK-based company, you can either make a claim through your credit card firm or take the agent to court. But give them one firm but final reminder before you do so. Mark Bridge from British Columbia's fine capital, Victoria, was one of the million or so airline passengers caught up in December's extreme winter weather in Northern Europe, when his flight from Berlin to London Heathrow and on to Manchester was cancelled. Instead, he bought another ticket on the Dutch airline KLM via Amsterdam.
How do I make a claim for the EU compensation for which I may be eligible? Also, I would appreciate finding out from BA what they've done with the money I had paid.
Mark, since the cancellation was due to weather, therefore well outside the airline's control, the rules on financial compensation don't apply. That €250 payment is due only when the carrier is to blame. And the flight you didn't take? BA tells me your contract is with the travel agent rather than the airline, so contact the agent to follow the money. Well, that's all we've got time for in this session of the Fast Track Travel Clinic. Keep those emails coming in, but from me, Simon Calder, bye for now and see you next time.
Simon Calder, fighting the good fight for travellers all over the world. Now, the Sultanate of Oman is not an obvious tourist destination. It attracts little more than 1 million visitors a year, which is surprising considering the reputation for hospitality that the Bedouin tribespeople enjoy. So we sent Karen Bauman up to the mountain ranges of this Gulf state to explore what the country has to offer.
When you take a look at a map of Oman, you may be surprised to discover that around 2/3 are either mountains or desert. We're heading to the Haja Mountains, which run across the north of the country, and to Wahiba Sands in the northeast. We're taking a 4x4, and it seems we could be in for a bit of a ride. My journey began speeding across Wahiba Sands, where for the first few miles is a rough gravel track, something my guide, a former rally driving champion, was obviously keen to enjoy. It wasn't exactly the desert encounter I'd imagined, but soon we were surrounded by dunes and silence. Wahiba Sands is more than 6,000 years old, its dunes up to 300 feet high. Among them lived the Bedouin. We came across Salma, who welcomed me to her home. She spends her time cooking bread, rice and curry, and looking after her goats and camels. But even in her lifetime, things have changed. Her son has a truck, they shop in the city, and they no longer live according to the seasons.
In former times, we used to have a small tent and moved around with our animals. Wherever it was green and there was food, we set up home. During the fishing season, we moved to the sea, and we didn't see the desert for a month or two, unless we needed something. We moved every summer and winter.
Despite his change in lifestyle, Salma's son still wants to stay in the desert.
I was born here, my family is here, and my cousins and my friends. We live together. I would never want to leave.
We left the pair and headed round, up and over the dunes, Naban reassuring me of his driving skills.
And do you think we'll get stuck?
No. We won't get stuck because you're in a good hand, so someone really professional here.
But even professionals can have fun, and for us, that meant a little dune bashing.
This is fun of the dunes.
We spent our last night in the desert at a camp at the edge of the sands, where local musicians provided entertainment around the fire. Next morning, it was up at 5 for sunrise.
Well, this is really quite magical, even though the sand is still a bit damp with dew, but it's patterned with tracks where creatures have been out overnight.
16,000 creatures live in the sands. You may well spot the tracks of a desert rat or a fox. That evening, views of a different kind as we wound our way through the central Hajar Mountains. Cut into the rock is a medieval village of Mitzvah al-Abreen. Few travel here, but those who do get a sense of old Arabia. The village is a mass of narrow alleyways with no room for cars. Donkeys are the only means of transport here, and in many respects, life has barely changed over the centuries. As with elsewhere in Oman, at the centre of the village is the falaj, or irrigation system, where water is channeled from the mountains to feed date palms below. The only change since it was built has been the addition of taps. The channels overflow into a pool that's enjoyed by village children. It's the perfect place to stay cool when temperatures reach a soaring 48 degrees. We left to take in Wadi Nakir Gorge, also known as Oman's Grand Canyon. It's popular with walkers for its stunning views. I was just as content with sunset as we ended our 2-day adventure through some of Oman's incredible natural landscape.
Karen Bauman experiencing firsthand the world-renowned warmth and hospitality of the Bedouin people. Well, sadly, that's it for this week, but join us next time
when we find out how Garuda, an airline which once had a bad record on safety, has managed to turn things around. And in a few weeks, I'll be discovering why so many tourist sites are bringing about gallery rage in those that visit them. If you spent longer in the queue than in an exhibition, we want to hear about it. Fast Track Travel at bbc.co.uk.
And don't forget, you can catch up with our reports from all over the world
on our website, bbc.com/fasttrack, with even more from Oman on bbc.com/travel, where this week you can find out about the high-end art scene in the capital of Kitsch, Hong Kong.
But until next time, from me, Rajan Datar, and the rest of the Fast Track team, thank you very much for watching, and see you again.